All right, y'all. If this is true, Jesus is not who he says he is. This is Molly Simpson. Y'all remember Molly? We just talked about Molly in the previous video. Molly is a practicing witch. She just did a podcast on the Anything Goes podcast with James English. Now, Molly says that she successfully made a deal with the devil, which made her famous. And that deal that she made with the devil, it unlocked access to this secret society, which involved these crazy industry parties. And honestly, her description of these industry parties that she was at, I said it in my last video, I am inclined to believe it, because the type of activity that she was describing going on at those parties, it's exactly the type of stuff that we would speculate is going on at these dark and demonic parties. Now, I get it. Not everybody believes her. It is what it is. Let's just say that these are, allegations, because nobody knows if she's telling the truth or not. I don't know. But here's the thing. She had a vision of Jesus Christ where she says that she sees Jesus face to face. And Jesus doesn't look like how the media portrays him to look. He looks much different. And Jesus says something to her that literally makes her break down and cry. And I want to show you what she says Jesus said to her. Let's play the video.
And my mum's talking to me, she's doing something in the kitchen, about pissed. And I start having this vision from Jesus with me. Now, I've been brought up very Catholic. I've always refuted religion. I don't agree with it. Never have. Went to a Catholic school run by nuns and everything. So the idea of Jesus to me was alien. And I was like, oh, here we go. Here's Mad Molly coming back. But he comes towards me. He looks nothing like he's depicted. He looks similar with his Jesus sandals, but that's the only really common thing that we can see in the depictions of him today, with this big cartoon and hair to look like a Bratz doll. And he comes towards me and he puts his arms around me and he went, your soul's yours, And I was like, what the? And I'm crying. I'm sat on a stool at the breakfast bar, crying my eyes out, and my mum staring at me. And I'm talking to Jesus. And yeah, he puts his arms around me, says that, and he says, they're not done with you, but you're going to be all right, but you've got to pick your magic back up. And I'm thinking, I'm not doing magic again. And he starts showing me pentagrams. And I'm thinking, I'm definitely not doing that again. And I have this big emotional experience, and it comes out of it, and my mum's like, are you all right, love? And I'm like, I've just had a vision of Jesus. And she just looked at me as if, like, well, you think I've lost the plot? You have. And I'm thinking to myself, no, this is mad. But it felt that emotional. It felt that real. There was no way I could deny it. And especially for someone like me. I was a Muslim for a bit and everything. The idea of Jesus just did not gel with me. But after that experience, I was like, nah, he's king. Jesus is king. Like, if anything's real, it's got to be Christ. Or the Christ consciousness. I don't believe Jesus is a God. I just believe Jesus was a human that came down here, showed us how to live, and then went back to heaven, where we all returned to at one point.
Were you taking any tablets or anything?
Nothing.
Weed? Nothing?
No. Nothing.
Did you do any mushrooms, ayahuasca,
No.
Cambo?
No. I don't agree with plant medicines. I don't think people should use them. They're not for the West. If we were supposed to have them, we would. We have mushrooms. Just use your...
Okay. So Molly was sober. She wasn't on nothing. She wasn't drinking. She wasn't doing nothing. This is very important. And I'll link the full podcast. If you guys want to go watch the full podcast, go for it. But here's something that's very important about this point in the conversation. Right before she has this vision with Jesus, she's literally about to pass away. Because as she describes, the demon on her shoulder, which she describes as like a literal demon that is controlling her actions and controlling aspects of her life. That demon is literally causing health problems physically that are manifesting in her life physically, to where she's going to the doctor and she said that her stomach was like puffed out and like huge. And the doctor said, "Oh, you're just constipated." And she's like, "No, I'm not constipated. Like I literally feel like, something is wrong. Obviously, as you can see, like something physically just manifested. I don't know what this is." The doctors are doing all this type of testing and stuff like that. They can't figure out what's going on. So she's becoming increasingly physically sick due to her involvement with all this witchcraft and all the things that come along with it. And then she's at her house in her kitchen with her mom, and she has this vision where Jesus appears to her and says, "Your soul is yours," and then encourages her to continue doing the very thing that is literally taking her life. From this encounter that she has, she says that Jesus is king, but then she puts a very important asterisk on top of that, where she says that she doesn't believe that he's God or anything like that, but she believes in the Christ consciousness, and that Jesus came down from heaven to show us how to live and then went back to heaven, where we will all eventually go at some point. It's very crazy on multiple levels. And this is why here's the thing. Some people will say, "Okay, well, Nick, when she says stuff like this, aren't you far more inclined not to believe the claims that she was making about what she saw at those parties?" I'm actually much more inclined to believe what she says about the claims that all the crazy wickedness that she saw at those parties. I'm much more inclined after hearing what she just said, because it's very clear what she was being led by and what she is still currently being led by, because she's still in this. She's still a practicing witch. Obviously, Jesus is not going to come and appear to you in the form of a vision and tell you something that directly contradicts the word of God. Obviously, Jesus is not going to come to you and encourage you to continue doing something that is literally causing death in your life. Obviously, he's not going to do that. But when you're being influenced by darkness, when you're seeking the kingdom of darkness, as she was seeking the kingdom of darkness, she was doing rituals in order to try to get tapped in with these demonic spirits so that she can make deals with them in order to have success in her life. You know what's so interesting? I'm sorry, this is a terrible shot. You know what's so interesting? That's even crazier. Okay, that's better. She said that Jesus came down, right, to earth, not as God, but he just came down to show us how to live and then return to heaven, where we will all go one day. That's so interesting that you can think that we will all return to heaven one day, where Jesus is, seemingly to be with him for all of eternity, right? It's so interesting that you can believe that, but then at the same time, not actually follow what he says to do in the scriptures. Not actually dive deep into the Bible to learn more about this individual who you believe that we will be spending all of eternity with. Instead, you're spending your time going through all these books that are teaching you about witchcraft and how to illegally access the spiritual realm so that you can get the stuff that you want here on this earth. All the while, you have this belief system that when you die, you're going to magically end up in heaven with Jesus for all of eternity. But yet you don't want to follow Jesus here on earth. That's mass deception. That's massive deception. And that's why it's so interesting. Like, even when you look at like Corinthians, 2 Corinthians 11:14, where it talks about how that's perfect. That's perfect. It talks about how Satan masquerades as an angel of light, right? And it's not surprising then if his servants masquerade as servants of righteousness. Their end will correspond to their actions, right? But then you look at John 8:44. You belong to your father, the devil. You want to carry out his desires. When he lies, he speaks his native language because he is a liar and the father of lies. Even in Genesis 3, verses 1-5. Now the serpent was more crafty than any beast of the field that the Lord God had made. We could go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. We can go on and on. But the reason why I'm bringing that up is because the vision that she explains, it aligns perfectly with the enemy, not with Jesus. It aligns perfectly with the enemy in his character and what he wants. So, I was reading the comments and a lot of people are praying for Molly and hoping that she comes out of this lifestyle and hoping that she actually experiences and encounters Jesus in a real authentic way. Because why in the world? And this is not even like a witch. Let's just keep it real. Even a witch should have enough awareness to be like, yo, Jesus ain't finna tell me to keep doing magic and slide a pentagram in front of me and say, keep doing that. He's not going to say that. And look, although I hope that she does come to know Jesus truly, when you have this type of confirmation in your heart to where you actually think that you saw Jesus and he's confirming your lifestyle and that lifestyle is sinful, it's going to be much more difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to be much more difficult. It's going to be much more difficult. But I think that just speaks to the level of deception that we're dealing with in the spiritual realm. That speaks to the level of deception that we are up against in the spiritual realm. And that's why we have to be extremely aware of what's going on, because it's not just flesh and blood. There's real spiritual activity that's happening. And sometimes it seems like the people who are furthest from God are the ones that actually understand that there is a spiritual realm. It's like the ones who don't even believe in God are the ones that are most aware that the spiritual realm exists. But then we have believers who are completely oblivious to the spiritual realm. That's an interesting video. It's an interesting video. Once again, I'll link it down below if you want to go watch it. I would say go watch the first part that I made where she says some stuff. And yeah, let me know what y'all think. Get in my comments, like this video. I'm out, y'all.